Hi, everybody. This is Martha Creek, marthacreek.com. That's how you can contact me. There's also a myriad of videos and podcasts and free resources and workshops and seminars. And I actually believe that as we change ourselves and improve ourselves, grow ourselves and grow ourselves up, that it contributes to the whole of the planet. So that's how I'm attempting and endeavoring to live and to be in the world. That's also how I want to put forth this, is offered this today in that way, in that vein. So my friend and dear friend and guest here is Diane Czerwonka. And so we dedicate this time and place and this interview to the transformation of hearts and minds, and the evolution of our own consciousness and the evolution of the consciousness of the species of the planet. So that's why it's offered. So Diane, thank you for taking the time to do this. I've had the privilege of knowing you, honey, and sharing many moments, defining moments in my own life through work and workshops and study and courses and classes and curriculum and family and trips and travel. And illnesses and deaths and births and divorces and any number of things. So I want you,
that
honey,
sums it up.
to speak about so think about that we've got a few minutes here that we want to bring out in the world practical ways that we have done our own work and ways that you have. And so this is for your mentoring moment, and that I get to be part of the witness of that, of how you mentor, and then we bring it out in the world together here. So one of the questions I usually open with was to reflect on your own life and see what you would call, what they classically call, what were your defining moments? Or the moments or situations in your life that you know had some kind of define effect on you. They defined you in some way.
I'd say one of my first ones was deciding to go to college and not knowing where and exactly how I would get the money to go, but knowing I was going and that I was going to go away to school. And so then it became a mission to get good grades, get leadership experience, learn how to apply for scholarships, and go visit colleges and narrow that whole process down, and work 2 jobs every summer and do whatever I could do to save the money to go. So that definitely defined me, and not basing it off of where somebody else wanted me to go, including my mom, including friends. Going where it felt right to me after visiting a couple colleges and getting a feel for the campus and the school itself, just going where it felt right to me. So that was definitely defining one of them.
Well, I really admire it, because I had an early call to go for education and for extended education in a family also that didn't understand it, that didn't value it necessarily. And they had both my parents had quit school, my dad in the 4th grade and my mother in the 8th grade. And then both of my brothers, as soon as they legally could quit school, did at age 16. So it was imprinted on my heart to continue education. And that was 30 years ago now, 40 years ago now, my goodness, 40 years ago. And I'm still enrolled in some kind of school or program. So I can understand it, honey. What's different about you since that defining moment? What that energy that you access there, that kind of thinking, that kind of planning, that intent, like how is that rooted in you now? How does that outpicture in your life now?
I'd say that I really grew in the way of following my calling to go, and to go where it felt right to me, because I was being pressured by my mom to go to a different college that she had a preference for. She did not go with me on my college visits. So it really was just an opportunity to grow individually and stand in that, even when it was not in alignment with something a parent, a parent wants for you. And then becoming resourceful So resourceful for college scholarships, becoming more resourceful for earning money, working double shifts or whatever it takes to like put that extra money away to have enough money to go. So resourceful that way. And then time management became a big thing because it was really, being away on your own with a class schedule, with a job on campus, with trying to, figure out social life versus academic life versus whatever else you're into at that point. It calls you to define what you're really going to make a priority. So, and then becoming resourceful in fun ways like, oh, I don't have enough money for all these textbooks, not knowing really what the cost of textbooks was back in 1984, 85, 80, and just being willing to ask for help. Like there was a resident advisor on the floor in the dorm. I had no idea what a resident advisor did. And just through talking to them, said, I didn't know if I could actually take the class without the book because I didn't know you could actually take the class without the book. And she said, well, you can go to the library and some of the books are at the library. And if you check it out, you'll have it. And then if you need to have it longer and extended, I'm willing to help you with that or whatever. And that helped me down the road with not having to spend so much on books because I was able to get several at the library and save that money. And so things like that really became individual challenges.
Yeah, well, I think about the power of that now, because whatever you learned there is, even as a young girl, the value of that today, which is what I sum up with one of my general mantras for life, which is find a way, find a way. So, and it takes a lot of courage to say, I'm willing to even consider taking a class without a book, for example, or I'm willing to tell somebody I can't afford a book, or I don't know how I'm going to get a book, and open myself up to have them to say, you don't have to buy a book, or here's ways that you can get a book. So think about then the power of that and how that would be better off to stay more in that even open, vulnerable, receptive, willing to learn, willing to speak it, willing to say it frame of mind, instead of coming at things like I got to have it all together and I've got to come in here as a graduate. Although I'm just enrolling, I've got to show up as a graduate. It's like, no, I need to show up as I'm just beginning here. Who knows the ropes around here? And let me watch a few people and see who really knows the ropes and then go sit by them.
Even coming in with what I thought was going to be my major, which was journalism, and getting like half of a year into it and then looking at what classes to enroll in next and not being able to get into the heart of writing and journalism until the next year at some point. And it was like, I can't wait. It wasn't okay with me that I had to do all of these prerequisite classes that really were kind of a bummer to me. They felt like they were not a good use of the money and the time and the energy of education, because I really didn't have an interest in most of them, but willing to do that. But then, being able to change course because I went for an advisor appointment. The advisor wasn't there and I didn't know really what their role was. So I went on back and changed my major, just went in and changed classes to go over here to go do what I thought was public relations, which was under a different college, which then changed those prerequisites, which was again another learning of, oh, now I'm going to take even more credit hours and more classes. So I did those and then did not want to go that route and just knew halfway into that, and then changed again and finally found an advisor to talk to that helped me like sort out, you have a lot of credit hours in a lot of places. Let me go this direction.
Well, I'm in here. It makes me think of the story you've talked about that you spoke about as actually being traumatizing to some degree hopefully it won't be re-traumatizing today as I refer to it, that you were given a chance to get candy one time, and that you were standing looking at all the candy and not making a decision quick enough to suit your mother, and how that you wanted to stand there and have all the candy, and what a torture to your soul it was to make a decision on one. So
It's true. That's hard to choose classes when there's a lot that look really good.
was still running, that you wanted to do all these classes. I want a degree from every school that the campus offers. So
Yes. Yeah.
spare me from actually enrolling in them, however.
So it's a miracle to finally have enough to get out with some kind of degree.
What would you say to that young girl now?
Oh, wow. Just, I would just be, for sure, just patting her on the on the back, because she really did not know what she was doing, and just was kind of wildfire out there, just like, oh, I'll go do that then. Oh, I'll go over and get a job there. Oh, I can do 18 or 21 credit hours and work in the morning and at night and find a way, and didn't go on very much sleep and got through it. And I knew I had to get through it in 4 years, because by the time you save enough money to go back, because it wasn't online then, I just knew it. So I would tell her she did a good job, and all of those rough places and all of those crazy little things, those were all just part of it.
So imagine being 90 years old now, or 100. So 50 additional years, 50 more years of living, 50 more years of life. And what would that wise elder woman say to you? Part of you. What advice would she give your older self?
From going back to that experience, or just from right now?
Yeah, so imagine you're 50 years older, so you're at the end of your life.
Sure. Okay.
Not
Not
that wise elder woman tell this middle-aged 50-year-old woman.
I think she'd tell her, I'm so glad that you didn't take it all too seriously, because we're meant to have fun and lighten it up. I mean, with a good balance of getting it done and knowing the time and place for that. So good job on weaving through and figuring it out and letting it go easily for you.
Besides your relationship to God or life or whatever you call it, whatever you pray to or pray with, and aside from friends and family. So God and friends and family are off topic now. So God, family, and friends is established.
Okay.
Besides those channels, those practices, where do you draw support from?
I feel very anchored in several practices and tools that I feel like are integrated in me. So there's an internal well, I guess I would call it, where I can dip into when I need to be reassured, when I need to remember who I've come here to be, when I need to, find a still point if it's been chaotic or if I don't feel very grounded. Just getting still and going there. It's like I know I've left myself. I'm just too scattered, and maybe emotions are taking over, whatever it is. So it's really just getting calm and quiet still, and remembering things that have worked for me, things that, are very familiar to me that I may not necessarily think about and do all the time, but just taking a breather, getting a breath, getting alone, getting away from people, phone, whatever it is, if I'm in a place that I'm being continually interrupted, just having a place to close a door and regroup myself. So I go there first.
Like an internal resource.
Yes.
Yeah. So what are some of your practices then that you refer to besides this taking a breath? So before we started, you were sharing like you have some mantras, for example, like
Yeah.
you have to look and commit to yourself and recommit to yourself to staying in your own lane. So
Yeah.
think about a few of those and the power of them.
Yeah, I like things that are refer to driving because I like driving. I've done a lot of driving. And so I think it's, for me, remembering to um, stay in my lane and to have grace for myself, when I've drifted over into somebody else's lane. If I'm in their business, if I'm whatever it is, if I'm distracted by that, it's like giving myself grace and waking myself up gently to know I'm out of my lane. This is not where I want to be. This is not a good place for this vehicle. So, and then also just extending that same grace when it feels like somebody else is drifting over into my lane, whether it's at work or personally, wherever it is. Um, I can have the awareness and try to, approach that from a place of I can understand and relate, but also, being able to um, check in about that or see if it was just a passing moment, or if they stay in my lane, it's like, hey, I need to honk my horn a little bit, remind you like you've drifted over here. So just growing up in those ways to be able to do that the same way I would want somebody to do it with me. So that's really important to me. Um, and then just remembering that I have the Byron Katie work, um, a way to question stressful thoughts. So it is deeply rooted in me and changed every possible aspect of my life to have the work tools and your facilitation tools and all the things that I have learned through workshops and um, those things that help me remember the thought is is nothing until I've attached meaning to it. So whether it's about a person or a situation, whatever it is, that has helped me tremendously. And then just having, the goal to seek to understand someone versus, so if I'm in a situation with people or with the individual and working on whatever it is with them, and um, if I can come from a place of, I want to understand this person, I want to understand what their problem is, I want to understand what they're trying to communicate to me, versus it being the first and foremost thought, like, I want them to understand me. And sometimes it comes out, that is the case, but I try to really remember that and come from that place, because I definitely learn a lot more. I have more opportunity to listen and then to really meet them with, what is it that we're in this interaction for, especially in human resources with people with many different reasons they're coming to me. It just helps if I know, I'm trying to understand first what their need is, or what
Yeah,
their
that's a basic tenet, honey, of spirituality and emotional well-being and care, which is written by St. Francis as seek first to understand. Seek first to understand. And it's really an empowered position, because the more you can understand where they're coming from and the more you can relate to where they're coming from, the more equipped you are to meet them with some understanding and to set limits if necessary, or to coach them into
Right.
what's actually factual and actual and reality based about this. So here's your options.
Yes.
I was thinking about that before the interview, that you've been in a career of professional, high level functioning of human resources and human resource management. So I was
Mhm.
thinking about if anybody listens to this, ever listens to this, that you could give them 3 tips on how they're going to have a better time relative to human resources in whatever company they're in or whatever jobs they're in. So what would be your advice to them? So be sure to do this and maybe don't do that.
Right. For somebody in HR, um, as an HR professional, I would say our role is really um, to be with the people, to be with all the people, not just a certain little sector of the people or the people that are more demanding of time, or it's to be available to all the people, the management team, the executive team, all of the employees, whatever their position. So um, so just really being aware of um, my role and um, trying to stay clear in that so that I'm accessible to all people, so that it doesn't appear that you can't come to HR or they're too close to this person or they're too muddied up in whatever it is. So that's really important to me, to be available, be approachable. I want to hear from people. I want to hear the good, the bad, the whatever it is, and to be actually okay with that, that they're not going to come in always with good news and they got a problem with someone, they need direction on how to handle it, could be whatever it is. So to be open to that. Um, so that's something I would say to an HR professional.
Well,
Be
it sounds like kind of you're encouraging not only an accessibility and an availability, but also a conscious openness, a conscious neutrality that says, regardless of what they're coming to you with, that is part of your role and responsibility is to meet them with it. And for
Yeah.
somebody, it could be, a case of harassment. For somebody else, it could be a case of I've got a sick baby and no insurance, and or I've got to have time off here, or I don't know if this is out of my bounds or not. So to any degree that you can stay as a human resource professional, you create a culture, an environment of that, like whatever you've got in question, whatever you're up against is welcome here, is going to set a tone for a different culture in an organization versus the old kind of an older worn out, hopefully more wearing out a framework around human resources is it's us against them, or they're after us, or they're the citation officers, or they're looking for where I'm out of my lane and they're ready to pull out their yellow tickets or their pink slips or where else, versus no, I'm here as and you've said it many times, I'm here as a human resource professional to keep the human in human resources and to value the human resources for a company, that it's the greatest, most valuable asset that any company has. More valuable than money, more valuable than property and or intellectual rights. And without the human resources, there's not much happening within companies. So what you're speaking about, that sounds grassroots to some degree, is grassroots, and it's the wisest, sensible thing ever.
Right. Just to value the employee from the beginning of the employee cycle to the end of the employment cycle. You know, at every stage in there, they're at a different place with their needs, their wants, their whatever that is. So it's really as important to me that somebody has a great onboarding experience, you know, gets good training, has good development, has good, you know, feedback on their performance, has a good way to communicate throughout that whole cycle. And at the end, if somebody is leaving, you know, whether they're retiring, I received notice of somebody's retirement after 35 years, and just, you know, meeting them where they are, she absolutely does not want any acknowledgement of her retirement publicly, and being able to meet that with her versus somebody who's being terminated, treating that person with the same amount of respect and compassion. I think, those are the moments that truly, as HR professionals, we can make a difference in how somebody experiences being dehired from a company. That's pending how we approach it, and they may have and will have all of their own emotion and their own processing around it. But typically, you know, I think that can be done with a lot of respect for that person as an individual, no matter what they did, what they didn't do, what they couldn't do, whatever the situation was. There are human beings sitting there in front of us whose life is about to change. And when I come from that place, then I can't do it wrong. And, those are the meaning, the moments with me that I can look back on with gratitude that,
Well, right. And it speaks to like what you said earlier in that you want to be the first in the room and quick to offer grace.
yes.
Metaphor about driving, but it's like I want to hold a space of grace and to be a space holder of grace here, understanding, mercy, whatever you want to call it, for somebody that's about to be in your quote dehired. So if you're listening, she did say dehired, so hired and dehired, and we call it hired and fired or severed, and some pretty dramatic terms about what goes on there in employment worlds, to be severed and
Yeah.
be terminated. And
Mhm.
versus to accept that as human resource professionals, that there's going to be a full scope of hiring and a lot around hiring, and there's also going to be dehiring
Right.
involved too, and to develop your capacities to hold as much presence and consciousness and intention around valuing for them even during the dehiring process as you did when you were hiring and educating and developing them, particularly if they've been a knucklehead or had some knucklehead behaviors. It won't be as easy to sit there and say, you're still okay. What you did is not okay. And that's the purpose of us being here today. And that doesn't make you bad or a bad person for
Yeah.
doing it. And
Yeah. But yeah, those have been some of the moments where um, I've been very, very grateful to have had the tools that I've learned through your classes, through doing all this different spiritual and self work that allowed me to be able to understand this is not personal when they are having a big reaction or whatever it is. It has nothing to do with me. I'm delivering this piece of news to them, so it helps to separate that out too. I'm with them. It's you can do it differently, whether it's a furlough, whether it's closing down a company and severing many people, whatever it is. It's like that's part of the process too. And it's
that's a powerful vision, even to say it. And it's basic mediation training so that I'm going to get on the same side of the table as them. So instead of talking at somebody or talking to somebody, I'm going to go and just talk with somebody. And if it's figuring out your severance or figuring out your termination plans, or here's what we can do as a company, here's what to expect unemployment wise, but I'm going to be with you. I'm going to be on the same side of the table with you, even though it looks like I may be against you.
yeah.
And that you may be in an energy of them being really clear that you're against me, or that you've ruined my life, or even panicked and terrorized, tormented, not even knowing what they're going to do next.
Yeah, and it doesn't mean I'm not going to have the police on site because somebody has had hostile behavior or whatever it is. So it's not going to stop me from taking other right action, but I can also still try to meet that person as a human being and deal with them, from that centered place, and be clear with them and direct with them, um, and still be compassionate with them, or empathetic, or whichever word is better fitting for it in that scenario. I'm going to be human with you, but I'm also going to be delivering some tough news, and I'm going to do that clearly. So that's something else when you're saying about an HR or any professional, that being able to deliver good news and not good news to someone and to do that cleanly so that they don't have to swim through some sugar coatedness of what do you really mean by this,
Mhm.
has really been something I've grown into over the years. And I can absolutely see the value of it because it's the same for me. When I have to receive whatever news it is or whatever is taking place, the brain capacity is very different when that is happening. And it would be, it's just such a gift, I think, to be able to speak tough things or deliver, you're going to get a 30% pay cut here. And this is how this is going to work. And allow, them to receive that news and then, be prepared for whatever else is going to take place in that exchange. So, and, any of those places are a chance to just really make a difference, in my opinion, with how it's going to go for someone.
If you were, so you're giving advice now, honey. It's like, imagine you're coaching a room full of human resource professionals. And you said, you know, do what you've been trained to do what's effective, and be sure to do these three things, or be sure to be these three things relative to human resources. What would that be?
Kind, clear, ethical. Remember who you are and what your values are, even when it feels like it could be people you report to or asking you to do something, say something, change something that is not in alignment for you or for your ethics or for your values. Then stand in that, and know that no matter the outcome of that, you can sleep with yourself at night. You can close your eyes and know you did the right thing, no matter whatever else the fallout is. So, so that's important. The kind, the clear, and face the fear. So if you're putting off the conversation, if you're putting off the whatever it is, the longer you put it off, the worse it makes itself versus what it actually is. So,
Thank you, honey. So think about then, if you could prepare employees, regardless of their past, regardless of their patterns, regardless of what their employment experience has been. If you said, if you do these three things, you're going to be all right. You're going to be fine. You're going to click along. You will live in free. You're free to be as an employee if you really look at and manage to do or be these three things. What would that be?
as an employee,
Hmm.
bring your best self. Just bring your best self. No matter what that looks like, bring your best self. And it's not always going to be 110%. Bring your best self, whatever that is that day. Bring your best self. Admit what you know and admit what you don't know, and ask for help when you need it. And it's okay to not know it all, and it's okay to make mistakes. And when that happens, very quickly tell somebody, especially who you report to, so that they can step in, help, redirect you, save you a lot of other pain, suffering, heartache potentially. So go there very quickly. And try to be the best coworker you can be to your teammates. So we're not always going to love and like each other. And one day it could be great, and the next day somebody's got an attitude, and somebody's cooking fish that smells terrible, and somebody left their papers where they're not supposed to leave them. So just to be the best coworker you can be in those situations without being a doormat. So knowing when to say something, do something, but also just allowing and forgiveness within your work teams, and cheering people on, and checking in on people on your team as a teammate, and giving people encouragement. And so I think those things go a long way, even beyond um, what we do day to day. It's those relationships you build, and um, those places that I think can be very fulfilling, even beyond whatever the task is. So those would be my things. And I think one more that I was thinking of about an HR professional is also work to give people a clean slate. So it's very easy to acquire and accumulate stories of people just naturally, because some people are high maintenance and they go through periods of time, even, or maybe their whole employment experience, they are very needy, and they are, they need extra hand holding, or they really are, whatever they are, or they have a lot of issues, or they go through a lot of issues, or whatever it is. So for me, it is just super important to remember to give them a clean slate when they come in. And if I can't give that, if I am aware of that, to be able to speak up and say to somebody else on the team, or to who I report to, I'm not going to be effective in this, because I'm not a neutral party anymore. I'm too wired into this. I'm too reactionary to this. They've pushed my every button to the point I don't have buttons left. So, being able to do that allows me to still be effective, and to give that employee, whatever experience they need, if they're still there and there's still things happening like that. So,
What has been some of the highlights? Like, where did you think, I'm in the right place? This is the profession for me. Like, it doesn't get better than this.
Watching people, like on my team, watching people learn new things and take on new projects and have successes where they were frustrated or doubting, or didn't think they could do that. Maybe they were cross training and they took on something, and you see them just flourish. That to me is huge. That is, it's a definite highlight. I also love moments where you see people who have been under maybe a corrective action plan, or there was one person in particular that was having tardiness issues, and tardiness issues and tardiness issues. And after some kind of conversation, that person stopped having tardiness issues and went on to become, a leader in a different area. So watching somebody who people are writing off and are writing their ticket out be able to change something, or change their behavior, or whatever it is, those little success stories, to me are really exciting. Watching somebody get promoted who came in the door as this, didn't even know anything else about where they would go, and watching them scale the ladder, that's awesome. And when you see that they're in the right seat on the bus and they are really making a difference and succeeding, that is awesome. Watching problems that I think are going to be big problems and take a lot to resolve, or you got to get these people together to make it work together, and you have one of those conversations and you see them not only working it out, but flourishing, and things really changing. Those kind of things just remind me, these are the good things.
If you had to sum up what you have gained from serving people through human resources, how would you sum up? I have gained this by serving others in a human resource capacity.
I have gained a much broader perspective of people, what it takes for them to get get themselves up and to work every day with all kinds of life going on outside of this job. Um, just a whole different appreciation for people, all kinds of people, all ages of people, all educational level and status levels of people. Just it's just given me a much deeper appreciation for everybody has a story, how they got there, what they're doing, why they're there, what they're hoping for, what they're dreaming for, what they're struggling with. It just, it confirms we're very much the same, even though we all look different and wear different hats, and some dress it up, some don't. And it just has given me a much bigger appreciation for people,
Yeah.
what they're capable of. And
Well, it's been a privilege to watch you in the years that we have, I guess, going on 20 years now. I don't know how long. And to watch you be so conscientious about the way you are in the world and the way you live and the way you lead and the way you learn and the way you unlearn. And it's like you say, you're here to put the human in human resources. And for me, it's even beyond that, Diane, that you're here to put the heart in the human of human resources.
great, I love that.
It can be human heart resources or human hearted resources, or I'm the chief heart operator here, the chief, yes, that. And if you look back on, I say we'll never sit under the shade of the trees we plant.
Mm-hmm.
And leaders like us, mentors like us, are not going to be dependent on that. We're just going to keep planting.
Yeah.
And that was one of the quotes that I read just a week or so ago about somebody was asked, if the world ended today, what would you do? Martin Luther King.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, I'd plant a tree.
I love that.
Like, yeah, I'm going to do, if the world ends, I'm going to put some life down somewhere.
Absolutely.
And I believe that's what we're doing day by day by day by day, and interaction to interaction, and person by person, and knucklehead by knucklehead, that we're doing it, and to the best of our ability and with pure intent and devotion, to do it with heart and a great deal of heart.
Yeah.
So thank you for that and what you do it.
Well, thank you for all that I have learned from you, with you, for sure. All the facilitation, all of the tools I feel like you have added to my toolbox for being able to better manage this one, so I can better manage this one out in the world, and at work, is quite a phenomenal gift. So thank you, Martha Creek. And I think about all the ripples of whatever I have learned through you, from you. I hope all those ripples go further out.
Yeah, and so do I, honey, and ditto, and vice versa. So love to you, and all blessings to you, and love to you listeners. MarthaCreek.com if you want to get in touch with me, listen to the other podcasts, the other ordinary mystics among us, and the mentors that are serving and doing so intentionally. Until we meet again, MarthaCreek.com. Bye for now.
Bye.
MarthaCreek.com if I can support you. Blessings.